These fans are gorgeous, just straight up gorgeous. Okay, that's the end of the review. Hey guys, it's JD from JDTechGear and welcome back to the channel where we discuss PC passion, tech reviews, unboxings, and setup design. So if you're into that sort of thing, consider subscribing and checking out the rest of the channel. Today we're taking a look at these RGB fans from Azza. They're called the Hurricane RGB Lumi fans and they retail for $70. So yeah, these are definitely in the price bracket of premium case fans, so let's see if they're worth the money. Azza has another tier of RGB fans in which they are controlled manually through a remote. They retail for around $40. This particular kit includes quite a bit. It has 3 RGB fans which are PWM and they either come in black or white. There's also a fan hub with RGB and PWM headers. There's a Molex connector to power the fan hub, a 4-pin connection to connect the fans to the motherboard for motherboard control, and a micro USB connector for a reason I am unsure of and wasn't stated in the manual. Additionally, there's 3 sets of screws and 2 rubber pads with adhesive to mount the fan hub. The fans have several connectors on them for connectivity. There are 2 RGB connectors, 1 female and 1 male, and a 4-pin connector. The fans spin at a maximum of 1800 RPM and Azza has their own downloadable software to control the fans from your phone for both iPhones and Androids. You can use the 2 RGB connectors on the fan if you plan on using the RGB header from the motherboard and connect the fans through the RGB connectors. Otherwise, you can use the fan hub. The fan hub has the 2 different headers in which you plug the 4-pin connection into the PWM side and the 4-pin RGB header into the RGB side. The hub is also numerically labeled to organize your fans, which is pretty nice. Aesthetically speaking, these look amazing. The colors are incredibly vibrant. The thin circular ring looks like something from Tron, a very Tron-esque vibe if you ask me. Looking from the side profile, the LED ring extends the entire width of the fan and illuminates a lot of light. This is definitely a unique take on the ring-shaped LED fans that you see on the market, and Azza has pulled it off well, in my opinion. Personally, I wish the rings were a little bit thicker when looked at directly from the front, but the thin profile also makes it unique, so I can't count this as a negative as I like both perspectives. They're just not that distinguishable from the front, but from the side it definitely is. The build quality of these fans is awesome. The plastic used is thick and robust, absolutely no creaking or signs of lack of integrity. The corners have rubber pads and the blades of the fans are robust as well. Obviously there's no coil whine or anything like that or any rattling. The fans are also pretty thick, so the entire fan is rigid and solid in structural quality, as it did a very good job with the build quality of these fans. Now let's move on to those gorgeous RGBs. So these RGB LEDs can either be controlled through a motherboard controller like Asus Aura or Gigabyte Fusion, or they can be controlled through the Azza software. I didn't have that many issues with having the fans controlled with Aura. I know Aura can be a little wonky at times, but most of the functionalities work seamlessly with the software. As for the app, it is near flawless, which is pretty crazy. It's simply called Lumi. You start by opening the app, click search, then the Lumi hub appears on the screen to connect with, and bam, it's connected. Shazam. I thought for sure there would be some connectivity issues, but surprisingly there were none. The user interface is very easy to understand and functional. You can easily change the fan speed by manually adjusting the slider. Alternatively, you can press on PC Sync to sync the fan speeds to the other motherboard connected fans. The hub has to have the 4-pin connector connected to the motherboard to use that though. You can switch functionalities by pressing on the tabs on the top of the app, switching over to custom. The app gives full control over individual lighting for up to 6 fans. Tap on the fan number corresponding to which fan is connected to which fan slot is in the hub and choose its individual color. If you want the same color across all the connected fans, press sync and it will do just that. The app gives you control for 2 other effects, which is rainbow and breathe. Under the rainbow tab, there's a delay slider which chooses the speed of the rainbow effect essentially, and yes, all the fans are synced with this effect. They are not individually controlled here. Under the breathe tab, all the fans are in sync once again, but you have the choice to choose whichever color you like for all the fans on the color wheel and choose the delay time to affect the speed of the breathe animation. And that's pretty much it for the software. All the colors are mostly accurate with choosing from the color wheel. There are some occasional hiccups with flickering of a different color, so the software is almost near perfect. Oh, come on, Jack. I would like to see some more functionality and animations down the line, but it does make up for it when it's connected to the motherboard RGB controller. The Azza fans also perform well with audible production. The testing floor has a resting dB level of around 39.5 decibels, which is about dead quiet in the room. For the Azza Lumi fan, the dB meter is about 3 inches from the fan, and it was 40 dB at 800 RPM, 41.3 dB at 1500, and 52.2 dB at 1800 RPM. The Azza fan read in at 49.3 dB at 1500 RPM. The Corsair AF120 came in at 50.9 dB at 1500 RPM. The Asia Horse UAV fan clocked in at 42.6 dB at 1200 RPM. So comparatively speaking, at 1500 RPM, the Azza RGB fan was the quietest at 41.3 decibels. Even with the Asia Horse UAV fan spinning at 1200 RPM, it was still quieter. So these fans run pretty silently compared to these fairly popular brands, and the Azza fan is pretty silent with its full silicone construction. Another good job on Azza's part. Lastly, how do these fans perform? So I placed these fans on my Cooler Master Liquid 120 and compared the temps with the Lumi fans versus the Cooler Master fans. Now keep in mind, the fans on the Master Liquid 120 are static pressure fans, so that will give a bit of an advantage for cooling since they're designed to push air through a radiator. Regardless, you can still use PWM fans as radiator fans, no problem. For this test, I used the Ryzen 1700 at a stock speed of 3.2 GHz. I ran IDA 64 for 20 minutes and received these results. The Cooler Master static pressure fans were about 1.6 degrees Celsius cooler than the Lumi fans, coming in at 50 degrees flat versus the 48.38 degrees from the stock fans. Nevertheless, these fans are pretty close to the static pressure ones, which is pretty good. It's also worth noting that I left the fan curve on the stock setting for both tests. Either way, these fans will have no problem pushing air through your case and doing it quietly at the same time. Overall, these fans are awesome. The construction quality is superb. The RGB control with the app is near seamless, at least on the iPhone, and the lighting on these look outstanding and unique and vibrant. They're also very quiet and cool well. Another thing I noticed with these fans is that with increased RPM, the CPU and other components don't really cool anymore than they were before at a lower RPM. So increasing the RPM beyond 1300 RPM had no additional cooling capabilities, at least in my test environment. So they're pretty efficient at cooling with lower RPMs to maintain the lowest audible production these fans can possibly produce. As is advertising this Vortex air patent that they have, which they claim helps channel the air into a concentrated stream for more powerful airflow. I don't have the proper tools to test airflow, but the fact that these came close to the performance of static pressure fans really does help their case. The only downside to these fans is that the lighting flashes a different color sometimes with the RGB controller app, and the motherboard RGB controller can be a little weird at times as well. But for the most part, they all cooperate well. I would have liked to have seen individually addressed LEDs for each fan to further the animations on these fans. The app is great and all, but the lack of effects leaves a little bit more to be desired. Luckily, these do cooperate with a motherboard RGB controller, so it does make up for it in a sense. For $70, I really do believe these fans are worth the price and make a competitive entry in the premium fan market. Links for these will be in the description below, although I don't know when they're going to be released, so I'll update the description as they are released. Hope you all enjoyed the review, and thank you for watching. If you liked what you see here and want to see more, consider subscribing and checking out the rest of the channel. I'll catch you guys in the next one.